for our next demonstration, I'm also going to use a granular powder. This time we're going to use a white powder. So I've selected this Perrier bottle here that is kind of a dark green color. The white powder will give us a good contrast for this surface. Now, one of the challenges with a particular surface like this is the contour of it, because it's obviously a bottle being cylindrical. It has a curvature going this way. Sometimes it may even have a curvature going the opposite way. So we're just going to put fingerprints on the larger surface here towards the bottom of it. And again, increase the moisture on your fingertips. You will find as you're doing these exercises that your fingers will tend to get dried out. Because the powder has an affinity to moisture, you get dirt, fingerprint powder on your fingers, it's going to dry your hands out. So you go to leave fresh fingerprints and there won't be any secretions there to assist with that. So you may have to either just recharge either the back of your neck, your forehead, or your nose, or in worst case scenario, you go wash your hands and reapply it at that point. Some people, just by their own physiology, will have dry hands, and it doesn't matter what they do, they don't leave quality fingerprints behind. What you can do is either have someone else put the fingerprints down for you, or if these other efforts don't assist, maybe just put a little hand cream or something, just a minute amount on there, just to moisten your fingertips to help regenerate some of the moisture that's on them. So I've just charged my fingertips up here, put some prints down on the surface. Now, just to demonstrate this, you can see it was just a light touch that I put on there. I didn't apply any great pressure because of the pliability of your fingers and the skin on the epidermal layer. If you're not trying to drive your fingers through the counter surface or onto the surface, just a light touch is sufficient to leave the impression behind. If you apply too much pressure, what happens is, with the pliability, elasticity of your skin, it will actually flatten it out with increased pressure, and you'll lose detail behind. So just a nice light touch is sufficient. So now we've got fingerprints on this surface here, and so we're going to use, in this case, we're going to use our white brush. And our white granular powder. Now, as you're doing this, you'll find that you'll get a maximum development or potential development on the surface of the print. If you continue to brush it excessively, it will eventually start to degrade the quality of the impression. So you have to keep a close eye on it, either just visually or with your naked eye, or using the magnifier to see, just to make sure that you're not overly developing it or developing it at the point that it's now starting to degrade. So you can see that the impressions are on that surface now.
Wait.
You can slightly just blow on it as well to clear off any excess powder. You could use that clean out brush as we described before to clean out the excess. Now, obviously being cylindrical, it can roll around. I'm just going to stand it up for 1 second here while I get everything else kind of prepared. Might be a good option on a curved surface like this is to get someone to help you, either by stabilizing the bottle while you're applying the tape, or to maybe secure it down either by taping it to the surface or putting a piece of silly putty or plasticine underneath of it, just to anchor it on the surface so the bottle's not going to roll around while you're doing it. So before I start to actually lift the tape, now we're using white powder, so we're going to use a dark colored backing card. Now, so the impressions are there. So you can see it's going to roll around a little bit. So I'm just going to stabilize it a little bit by holding it with the powder jar, and Again, pulling off enough so that you get a nice, clean, unmarked area where the impression is. Now, I didn't mention this on the previous segment, but you can also use the actual weight of the tape to your advantage. Now, because it has a tendency of wanting to, by static electricity, it's going to want to potentially come up. You can see it, the tape is trying to come to my fingers because of the static charge. You want to maintain control of it. So certainly if you've got, whether you're out in windy conditions outside or you've got a static issue going on, I don't have any control of the tape by holding it that way. But now by holding the loose end, the weight of the roll of the tape itself will keep it fairly taut and avoid that potential of it folding up into itself again and losing control. Now, as you're applying the tape, I'm just going to swing this around now because you want to follow the contour of the bottle, in this case here. So I'm just going to lay this here for 1 second. And so when I say follow the contour, so we've got the arc going this direction here. To facilitate a more even application of the tape is to try and follow that contour. So as we did in the past, anchor the tape away from where the fingerprints are, and then roll the tape over the surface. Now you can see, because of the contour, created an artifact here. You can see that there's an actual crease that's in the tape. Ideally, you don't want that. You want to avoid it. Sometimes it's unavoidable depending on the contour of the surface that it's on, because it's not going on a flat surface. So sometimes the tape will not apply evenly. So, and again, you can see how wobbly that bottle is. So again, try as best you can to hold onto the loose end of the tape while you're removing the tape from the surface. Now you can see the fingerprints appear. The crease is actually in an ideal location because it's actually between the digits, so it's not interfering with the quality of the impressions themselves. So I'll invert that so you can see the directionality, and this is what the print would look like. So the powder is actually adhered to the underside, as we discussed. So I'll move the powder and the jar out of the way here, the bottle out of the way for a second, and I'm just going to set up my area here for lifting the print. Again, I'm trying to keep one hand free, so using the weight of the rule to kind of keep the prints taut, or the tape taut, and now getting ready to apply it onto the backing card. So I'm starting by applying it as we demonstrated in the previous video, holding the tape at approximately a 60-degree angle, not too forceful to create wrinkles, just taut enough that it's not going to bow and touch the surface when you don't want it to. So it's properly anchored onto that hard surface. Now sliding the backing card into the edge of where it's making contact and just starting to touch the surface there so that now the card is actually anchored under the tape as well, just to kind of stabilize it a little bit. Now, this demonstration here, I'm going to show how it works by using either my fingertip, in this case I'm going to use my finger, and I'm just going to apply the tape using my fingers like this. So working your way across the edge like this, thumb, whatever else, you can use the blade of the edge of your hand. You can use a credit card or any other type of object like that that has a flat surface that's not going to scratch or damage the surface. You're not going to use like a serrated knife or something like that. You want to use just something that's not going to affect or tear the tape. So maybe the blade of a credit card or something like that, or your T card, and just working your way across. Generally, for crime scene purposes, I normally just use my finger or the edge of my hand kind of thing to apply it. So now we have good adhesion, and again, just pinch it and pull it down, fold over the edge of the tape, and clean off the edges, like so.